In this video on the Punic Wars, we will be covering all three of them. Keep it in mind that this is a quick summary of the Punic Wars and not a full covering of it. Small facts may be absent. With that, let us continue. To understand the means by which the Punic Wars came to happen and how they ended, we must first have a look at the two empires who fought in it and their culture and history. Firstly, Rome. Rome is very well known already, but I will summarize its history before the Punic Wars despite this. Rome had for a long time been a monarchy, and had only relatively recently transferred into the republican system. It had defeated the Etruscans and their other competitors in the Italian peninsula, but was yet to fight a major war. Their army was made up of citizens who had to fight as part of their service to the state, and were categorized into three groups. The Hastati, who were young and inexperienced men, the Princeps, who were a bit more experienced, and the Triarii, who were the elite veterans. There were also the Velites, who were completely new to the army and were just skirmishers. The Punic Wars happened before the time of Caesar and later Rome's emperors, so this summary of Rome's history will not cover them. Now on to Carthage. They had split away from the state which they were once part of, which was Phoenicia, and had now outgrown them. In terms of territory, the North African coastline was almost entirely Carthaginian. Their many ports would allow them to grow wealthy off of trade, which would soon become important. Their vast wealth influenced their army, and unlike Rome, did not require citizens to fight that much, and instead employed vast mercenary armies. With the summary covered, we can now move on to the causes of the Punic Wars. First among these was that Rome was worried about Carthaginian power in the Mediterranean, and also they were envious of the wealth they had obtained through trade. Another cause was that Rome wanted to consolidate its power in the Mediterranean. So because of the but it was not this that would set off the Punic Wars. Although these were the long-term causes, the particular event that would set the Punic Wars into motion would be a certain small city in Sicily. They asked both the Carthaginians and Romans to take leadership over their city, and when the two sides arrived, tensions escalated over to whom the city would belong, and the war broke out. It first began in Sicily, and as such Sicily would be the focus of the First Punic War. For the Romans to win, they would need to take the primary Carthaginian stronghold there, which was the city of Lilybaeum. Carthage, however, had many towns and cities which they would also need to take before Lilybaeum. However, Roman progress was slow, and the other force in Sicily, the Hellenistic Syracuse, had decided to help Rome, actually, due to the greater deal of Roman pressure for them to do so. However, the Romans still failed to take Sicily, and had to redirect their efforts into Africa itself. Here, they found more success, but still could not take much land from the much larger mercenary armies of Carthage, and the Romans were ultimately forced to make peace, ending the First Punic War indecisively, although the peace treaty was somewhat in Rome's favour. Rome may have kept its peace longer if they had not noticed a Carthaginian general known as Hamilcar Barca, who was a general in the First Punic War, expanding his power in Iberia. However, he would die and pass his gains on to the much more well-known Hannibal, who continued annexing Iberia, which the Romans saw as a threat. In response, they declared war and sent the 4 consular legions of the year to defeat Hannibal, as Hannibal entered Italy, over the Alps. The 2 consuls met Hannibal's mercenary army in a small village in Rome, in the Italian peninsula rather, known as Cannae. The 4 Roman legions vastly outnumbered Hannibal's army. However, Hannibal knew the Roman traditions. When there were 2 consuls in command of an army, they would take turns to command, each one leading for a day. It happened that one of the consuls for the year, during this battle, was very aggressive in their style of command, and would order a charge at the slightest provocation. Hannibal used this to his advantage, drawing the 4 legions across a freezing river. Using this, Hannibal managed to outwit and crush the 2 consuls and their 4 legions. By now, the panic had reached Rome itself, and they had to swiftly appoint 2 new consuls. Hannibal, meanwhile, was also in much difficulty. Many Roman vassal states had already defected to Carthage. Hannibal knew that in order to keep other Roman vassals declaring for Carthage, he would need another decisive victory. Yet he was unable to get one, as the new consuls had a new strategy. The armies would follow the Carthaginian armies, but refuse to engage in a battle. This way, Hannibal was trapped in Italy. Meanwhile, in the Iberian Peninsula, Hannibal's brother, Hasdrubal, was only barely holding out against the Roman forces in the area, and was, in the end, defeated, and decided to take the remainder of all of his forces in Iberia to support his brother Hannibal in Italy. Hannibal, meanwhile, was still trying to force a battle, but was stuck at the city of Capua. In an attempt to take it, he marched all of the troops on Rome itself, knowing that most of the entire Roman force would panic and rush to defend their eternal city, which they did. However, he was still unable to take Capua. Hasdrubal was about to arrive, and with his reinforcements, Hannibal might have actually been able to take Rome. However, Hasdrubal was attacked as he crossed into the Italian peninsula and killed. The Senate of Carthage would not have been called a Senate to the Carthaginians, but served a similar purpose. Decided that after this, despite Hannibal's relative success in Italy, he would be recalled to Carthage to deal with Rome's attack by the general Scipio, later to be named Scipio Africanus after his success over the Carthaginians. So he went back and prepared Carthage for the final battle of the Second Punic War. Most of those on the Carthaginian side were recruits from Carthage itself, and not their usual mercenary armies. The superior Roman cavalry managed to defeat the much smaller group of Carthaginian cavalry before it destroyed the rest of the Carthaginian army. The Second Punic War was over, and won by the Romans. Carthage was reduced to a vassal of Rome, and after ruling for a short time, Hannibal was eventually betrayed once more by his own people, and exiled so as to not draw Rome's ire. The final Punic War began when Rome demanded that Carthage burn their fleet, which the Carthaginians accepted, not wishing to start a third Punic War. But when the Romans ordered that they give them their city, the Carthaginians could not accept this. So after a short siege, Carthage was burnt to the ground. Many of the people of Carthage were killed shortly afterwards. This has been our video on the Punic Wars. My next video will also be today, and will be about the Roman maniple formations. This weekend there will be videos on Herodotus and the Achaemenid Empire. For now, valete et ave SPQR!